Today, pop goes the New Zealand home price Weasel. Hello again, it's Martin North from Digital Finance Analytics. Welcome to this post covering finance and property news with a distinctively Australian and New Zealand flavour. Well, the REINZ released their data for April, and as expected, property prices and momentum are moderating, with a further slowdown in sales activity, more moderate price growth, and properties staying on the market for longer. They said across New Zealand, the number of residential property sales decreased annually by 35.2% in April 2022, from 7,497 to 4,860. The sales count for New Zealand, excluding Auckland, decreased 31.7% annually, from 4,815 to 3,287. Month on month, there was a 29.3% decrease in sale counts for the country. And REINZ said that sales numbers tend to fall in April, as March is typically one of the stronger months in the annual property cycle. So while the nominal change is significant, the seasonally adjusted figures for New Zealand showed just a decrease of 0.9%, moving from March to April, and that's only a marginally weaker result than usual for the month. But looking at the seasonally adjusted figures over time, the pace of the market change is stark. Through to mid-2021, the season-adjusted month-on-month sales count was negative due to low levels of supply and high demand. After a stronger than expected October, it returned to negative seasonally adjusted figures, this time marking the introduction of the CCEFA changes and growth in available stock, shifting the market from one underpinned by high demand in 2021 to one of high supply in 2022. All regions saw an annual decrease in the number of sales. Those with the greatest annual percentage decreases were Marlborough, which decreased 53.6% annually from 84 to 39, Auckland, which decreased 41.3% annually from 2,682 to 1,573, Hawke's Bay, that decreased 39.2% annually from 209 to 127, and West Coast, which decreased 38.3% annually from 47 to 29. Excluding lockdown-influenced April and May 2020, this was the greatest annual percentage decrease in sales in Marlborough since July 2020. Wellington, since January 2009, down 34.6% annually to 515. And Northland, since June 2017, down 36.9%. annually to 142. Jen Baird, the chief executive of REINZ, said, "We're now in the phase of the property cycle where demand has weakened, sales counts are down, but prices remain high. Falling attendance at open homes and auction rooms and a decrease in buyer inquiries were reported across New Zealand, exacerbated by a spate of public holidays through April. Affordability, uncertainty and challenging financial conditions remain primary concerns. Tighter lending criteria, LVRs and increasing interest rates coupled with inflation continue to create challenges for some buyers, particularly first home buyers and investors. Those who are backed by equity and secure in a job market with a low unemployment rate will continue to see opportunity in the market as more stocks increase choice and prices ease. Owner-occupiers are the most present and active in the market, so while we see a softening in the mid to low price range, interest is solid in the mid to high bracket. Increases in the official cash rate, most recently by 0.5% in April, have further impacted affordability, and with the cost to own increasing, property may seem less attractive. With the forecast peak of over 3%, some potential buyers may hold off purchasing in a market where interest rates are likely to rise. For those who have purchased property over recent years, these increases were largely expected and factored into banks' requirements for borrowers to be able to service mortgage increases, providing a buffer for most, but the challenge will be for those refixing their mortgage. Across New Zealand, median prices for residential properties increased 8.8% annually from 804,362 in April 2021 to 875,000 in April 2022. And while the nominal median property price decreased 1.7% month on month, the seasonally adjusted figures show a 2.4% increase. The median residential property price for New Zealand, excluding Auckland, increased 9.9% annually, from $687,200 in April 2021 to $755,000 in April 2022, down 2.4% month on month. In Auckland, the median property price increased annually 4.5% from $1.12 million to $1.17 million, but down 2.5% month on month. Overall median prices have fallen. Marlborough was the only region to reach a new record median price of $764,000, up 13.7% for the same time last year. And 4 territorial authorities achieved record medians, the lowest number of records since October 2015. And they went on to say the New Zealand property market is still settling into its current phase, as reflected in volatility across the regions. At one end of the spectrum, the West Coast saw the median property price increase 31.6% annually, from $225,000 to $362,000 in April 2022. Canterbury saw a 20.8% increase in median prices, from $566,000 to $684,000. But at the other end, 3 regions saw an annual median price decrease. The last time 3 regions showed a decrease was April 2020, and before that it was September 2019. The median property price in Otago was down 5%, from $700,000 in April to $665,000 in April 2022. And Gisborne was down 0.7%, from $690,000 to $685,000. And the REINZ House Price Index for New Zealand, that measures the changing value of residential property nationwide, showed an annual increase of 6.3%, from 3,774 to 4,013, but it was down 6.2% from its peak back in November 2021. For New Zealand, excluding Auckland, the HPI increased 8.9% annually, from 3,805 to 4,142, and there were no regional highs in the HPI this month, and for the first time since October, an annual decrease was recorded on the index. Wellington was down 4.2%, and the Wellington region was ranked at the bottom 2 of the HPI for 6 months running. Canterbury and Northland ranked top of the HPI. Canterbury has been in the top 2 in terms of HPI movements for 7 consecutive months, and in April 2022 recorded an annual increase of 19.9%. Northland was ranked second for 4 consecutive months, showing an annual increase of 16.7%. In April, the REINZ HPI showed an annual increase of 6.38% across the country, down 6.2% from its November peak. And also in April, the median number of days to sell a property nationally increased 9 days to 38, while in New Zealand, excluding Auckland, it increased by 10 days to 38. 2 regions saw an annual decrease in the median. West Coast was down 5 days to 29, and Nelson down 2 days to 27, and they both had the lowest median days to sell nationally. Southland and Tasman had their highest median days to sell since May 2020. In April 2022, the total number of properties available for sale nationally increased 70.8%, from 15,838 in April 2021 to 27,050. For New Zealand, excluding Auckland, inventory increased 93.3%, from 8,825 to 17,060. And all regions had at least a 20% annual increase in inventory, with 7 recording over twice as much as they had 1 year ago. For the 6th consecutive month, Wellington saw the most significant annual increase, up 157.4%. And Hawke's Bay, the Bay of Plenty, Nelson, Waikato and Otago all had increases in inventory levels of over 100% compared to April 2021. In terms of listings, Nelson, Hawke's Bay and the Bay of Plenty saw an increase in listings of over 20% compared to the April prior. The most significant year-on-year decrease in listings was in Gisborne, which was down 21.2% compared to April 2021, and Canterbury, which continues to show strength in market, has had 11 months where listings have been less than they were the year prior. and the West Coast has 10 consecutive months of the same. The decrease in demand caused by changes to broader economic conditions coincides with an increase in supply. In April 2022, there was a significant increase in the number of properties available for sale across New Zealand, up 70.8% on April last year, and the level of stock now on the market reflects a shift in dynamics whereby supply is outweighing demand, the reverse of what we saw through 2021. As evidenced by the median days to sell, stock is staying longer on the market, and there are a number of factors in play, from lending criteria, lengthening the sales process, to people hitting pause, buyers unwilling or unable to make market prices, and vendors not wanting to sell for less than their desired, if now unrealistic, price. Overall, we have not seen a rush of new listings, rather the significant increase in inventory levels is being caused by this slowing pace of sales. For example, looking at the annual figures for New Zealand excluding Auckland, in April listings were up 3%, sales were down 31.7%, and the result was a 93.3% increase in inventory. In theory, more stock and a lower pace of sales is good news for all buyers, giving them choice and more time to shop around and undertake due diligence, but compounding factors make for a much more complex scenario. Actually, property prices remain relatively firm, they said, and the current financial and economic environment has curbed some buyers' appetite and ability to engage in the market. And also in April, there were 721 properties sold by auction, with auctions falling from 29.8% of sales in April last year to 14.8% in April this year. In March, 19.5% of sales were by auction. And the percentage of sales by auction recorded in New Zealand excluding Auckland was just 10.7% compared to 20.1% last year. The highest percentage of sales by auction was at Canterbury at 25.6%, but still down from 32.1% last year, and Gisborne had the second highest percentage of sales by auction at 24.1%. In Auckland itself, the percentage of sales by auction was 23.4%, down from 47.1% the year prior. That was the lowest percentage of sales by auction since June 2020. Auction clearance rates have eased, and reports from across New Zealand say there are fewer people attending, which is what you are seeing more generally as demand is down and sales are taking longer. In a slow market, there tends to be a trend away from auctions. However, those who do attend are serious buyers and are still bidding for the right property in the right price range. Now, there's one other factor just to mention that is also worth considering, and that is that New Zealand has just started to ramp up migration. The Immigration Minister, Chris Whaafoe, announced the changes in a speech to Business New Zealand on Wednesday afternoon, where Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern also brought forward full border reopening dates to July 31. Whaafoe said New Zealand would not return to relying on low-skilled and low-paid migrants. New Zealand cannot return to pre-pandemic trends that saw us overly reliant on growing numbers of lower-skilled workers and resulted in the increased exploitation of migrants, he said. The changes include a new process for accredited employers to get skilled migrants into New Zealand and to get them residency immediately. And some of the jobs included in the straight to residential pathway are electrical engineers, surveyors, industrial engineers, psychiatrists, general practice doctors, vets, and technical managers. Employers will not need to advertise locally for the jobs, and the migrants will be eligible to immediately gain residence rather than needing to work for a period of time before gaining residence. The Green List features a range of jobs, including engineers, psychiatrists, doctors, vets, and tech workers, but those all need to be paid on a minimum salary, which will be pegged to the median wage, with higher pay for some roles. A separate list of occupations will see migrants able to get residence after 2 years, and that list includes nurses, diesel mechanics, teachers, registered plumbers, and midwives. And all migrants paid at least twice the median wage of $115,480 will be able to apply for residency after 2 years. Not all migrants will need to be paid the median wage, however, with hospitality and tourism employers temporarily being exempted. Instead, those looking to hire people for various roles in those professions will need to pay at least $25 an hour. So here you can see an interesting confluence of events. The property market is slowing, property prices are easing back, credit is tightening, and so they pull the migration string to try and bring more people in. Well, no surprise there. That was fully expected. And we'll see the same in Australia too. After all, increased migration is now the only lever they have to try and prop the property sector up. Of course, the real question is, will it make any difference? Well, maybe or maybe not. But given everything else, I think you can be pretty sure that New Zealand property prices will continue to fall for some long time yet. I'm Martin North from Digital Finance Analytics. Many thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time.